polarization of a light. So we know that the light, if I take any source of light, the light will have a directions in all directions. So the light source will be traveling in all directions. What we are going to do? We are going to restrict the direction, every direction of motion, and we are going to allow only one particular vibration only to come out. Means we call that type of restriction is called as what? A polarization of a light. Right? So we can see that we can represent by diagram. So all the vibrations have the thing. One is a parallel compound, another one is called as what? Perpendicular compound. So perpendicular compound will be represented by a dot, and a parallel compound will be represented by the black dot. Right? So these two are the representations of unpolarized light. We can see that in all directions the light has been black. This is the method. The orange color line shows that the direction of propagation. Here, only one set of vibrations are. One is perpendicular, two perpendicular lines, but there is having two pressure of propagation. Example, this type of propagation is also called as what? Unpolarized. Then how the polarized light can be represented? The polarized light can have only one direction, right? It doesn't have two directions, only one direction of vibrations like this or this. We can call that type of restrictions of light or vibration of light direction. We can call that as what? A polarized light. Right? So that is called. So we can say that parallel one will be represented by a double arrow and a perpendicular one will be represented by a dot. So that is called as polarization. So polarization phenomenon also is going to prove that the wavelength light is having what? Wavelength nature. That is the thing we are going to study in this topic. Right? So it is a very, very interesting topic. Then, now we are going to distinguish between what difference between a polarized light and an unpolarized. So what is the difference? We can see that we can say that it can be unpolarized light or a polarized light. It can be is a single plane normal to the direction of a vibration or direction of a ray of light. So polarized light is nothing but what? It is a single plane. Only one plane will be there. So it is a single plane with a propagation normal to the direction of propagation of a light. If we talk about the unpolarized light, we can say that it is equally distributed. This is equally distributed. The electric field vibrations of all the lights have been equally distributed in the direction normal to that direction of a ray of light. So that is called as what? The unpolarized light. So polarized light is what? The polarized light in which the direction of propagation of electric field or direction of vibration of an electric field will have what? A single plane normal to the direction of propagation of ray of light. And unpolarized light will have what? So equally distributed. All the electric field vectors, all the vibrations of the vectors have been equally distributed in the directions normal to the direction of propagation of a light. Then we can say that the polarized light will produce a asymmetrical pattern, or you can say that it has an asymmetrical about any direction. But we can say that unpolarized light will be what? Symmetrical about action. Unpolarized light is what? It's not symmetrical. Asymmetrical about its direction of propagation. But polarized light will have what? So polarized light is said to be asymmetrical method of direction, and unpolarized light will have what? Symmetrical method of direction. And we can say that polarized light can be produced by passing it through a polarized light, or it can be produced by means of using a polarized. Polarized is a substance that helps you to polarize a light. So a polarized light can be obtained by what? When passing unpolarized light through a polarized light or polarizer, we can easily able to get what? A polarized light. And unpolarized light can be produced by what? It is a source of light, any source of light. It is a conventional light source. So any light source will produce what? The unpolarized light. So that is the difference between a polarized and unpolarized light. And also you can draw a diagram to represent what the difference between an unpolarized light and light. What are they? We will repeat it again. Listen. So polarized light means you can say is that the direction of vibration of all the electric field will be in a single plane normal to the direction of propagation, and it is asymmetrical in a manner. So you can say that it is what? Asymmetrical about direction, ray direction, asymmetrical about ray direction, and you can also say that so it can be produced by passing an unpolarized light to a polarized instruments. You can easily able to produce a polarized. So that is the thing called what? Polarized. If we talk about unpolarized light, we can say that all the states of vibration of electric fields are equally distributed in the direction normal to the direction of propagation, and we can say that it has a symmetry in the direction of propagation, and it is nothing but it can easily produced by the conventional light sources. So that is the topic on what? Unpolarized. Right? Is it clear to you? So what is meant by polarization? Polarization is a phenomenon in which the vibration has been restricted to a one particular direction, either a parallel one or a perpendicular one. You can take home that type of direction of propagation as what? A polarization condition. And it is a one-day phenomenon to say the light is electromagnetic wave and it is a transverse in nature. Right? Then we are talking about a polarized and unpolarized light. Now we are going to take a crystal like this. So it's the tourmaline crystal. It's a tourmaline crystal, one of the naturally substance, natural crystal, which is helping to polarize light. And we are going to try to the two conditions called plane of vibration and plane of polarization. So the tourmaline crystal will have an axis. The axis for this axis is having a parallel. If we call that is said to be what? A plane of operation. And the plane which is perpendicular to this plane of vibration is called as what? A plane of polarization. So when a light of one polarized ray falls on there, so if this polarized or tourmaline crystal will restrict all the directions of light and it will allow only one direction of propagation, we call that plane, that is which is parallel to the axis. So the plane which is parallel to the optic axis of the crystal, we can call that plane as what? A plane of vibration, and a plane which is perpendicular to the direction of propagation is called as plane of polarization. Is that clear? Right. Very easy and very simple. And polarizations cannot be as equal. So by passing into one thing and we are getting it, we are not able to get it. There are some techniques that we follow in order to obtain a plane polarization. So some of the techniques that we are going to study in this lessons are polarization by selective absorption, polarization by reflection, and polarization by double reflection, and scattering, polarization by scattering. So these are the very, very important concepts. Each and every concept are very important and it will be frequently asked in your board examination. So we are going to see one by one. The first condition is called as what? The polarization by selective absorption. So the polarization of selective absorption can also be given an expression name called Gaussian. Right? So yes, what is meant by that? From the word itself, you can easily able to understand selective absorptions. Only it is going to allow only selective light to pass through. Now the light has been reflected. That type of conditions are said to be what? A selective absorption. Right? So properties of the material which transmit the wave whose electric field vibration in a plane parallel to a certain direction of orientation and absorb all other waves, then that type of things are said to be what? Selective absorption. It absorbs everything and it allows only one light to pass the wavelength. We can call that as a selective absorption. So based on this polaroid only, some of the sunglasses are made and it has been used in the airplane windows or train windows in order to restrict the sunlight to enter into the airplane or a plane or in order to enter into the hand. Right? So it will absorb everything or it will reflect everything. It allows only a fraction of the thing to enter into it, so it will not affect our light. So that type of selective absorptions are said to be what? So this is a condition for that. So that type of material, we are going to use that type of material. That material has a behavior to do this. So we call that as a selective property of material. Some material have this property to transmit where whose electric field will vibrate in a plane parallel to a certain direction of orientation and it will absorb all of the waves. We can call that type of absorption only particular parallel vibrations or called as what? Selective absorption. We call that as what? Gaussian. Right? Then we can say that in 1932 only Edwin Land, the scientist, American scientist is the one. He is just the first to find about the polarized. He says that the tourmaline is one of the naturally made crystals which help me to polarize light. Later he found that many sheets like this can be produced artificially in order to produce a polarized light. And he is the one with the help of quinine isosulfate. So it is a small crystalline needle which has been parallel arranged in a sheet of paper and that sheet has been used as a polarizer or a polaroid in order to polarize a light. Then after that, when they have been studied that experiments, many experiments have been revealed that a polyvinyl alcohol can also be used as a polarizer and it can be helping to study about what? Various polarizer. Is it clear to you? So first person to tell about the polarization conditions what? Edwin Land. He says that tourmaline is a naturally made crystal and he is the one who says that polaroid can also be produced through what? Artificial method and he used a single small needle crystals of what? Quinine isosulfate crystals and he arranged that small needle in a parallel axis manner in a small sheet. He has to use that sheet as what? A Polaroid. So Polaroid is nothing but it is a device that can help you to produce a polarized light is called as what? A Polaroid. Or we can say the technique is called as polarizer. The device or instrument which helps you to produce a polarized light is called as what? A polarizer. Is it clear? Right? So that is called as polyvinyl alcohol, and we are now using what? Some polyvinyl alcohol also we use as a polarizer in order to polarize the light. Right? Is that clear? So we have talked about what? So what is the condition for polarization, and we have seen for the difference between unpolarized and polarized light, and we have studied about what? The plane of vibration and plane of polarization. Then we are going to say about the different technique in which the polarized light can be produced. In that, the first technique is called as what? Selective absorption. That means what? We are going to select only one particular direction of vibration, and we are going to know all the things. We can call that as what? Selective absorption. So it can be done through some of the materials. We call that materials as what? Polaroid materials. And the technique is called as what? Polarizer. Right? The device is called as what? Polarizer. Now we are going to see that. What is meant by polarizer and an analyzer? If you look into this diagram, you can easily able to understand that. So this is the thing which is can be said that it is unpolarized light. From this is the direction of propagation. When this unpolarized light falls on a one polaroid or polarizer, we can say that it will restrict all the direction of propagation and it will allow only one direction of propagation. And when this has been viewed to another polarizer, we call the device. It is said to be what? The intensity is maintained uniformly. We can say that as what? It is a polarizer. When this analyzer has been rotated to 90 degrees, if you are not able to see the light, then the light which has been coming out of this polarizers are said to be what? A plain polarized light. Right? What we are going to do? We have it because only one direction. This direction has been, it's not parallel. It is somewhat perpendicular or inclined. If you are not able to view the intensity of light, view the image means it can say that the light which is emerging out of this device that is called as what? A polarizer. Can everybody get it? So an unpolarized light falls on a polarizer. What is doing? It restricts all the direction of propagation and allows only what? One direction of propagation, only one direction of propagation, and that direction of propagation has been false on that. When we keep this analyzer in the right direction, we can easily able to see the image. If I rotate it to some angle or theta degree or 90 degree, we will not be able to see the image. Then we can call this as what? The light which is emerged out from this device is a polarized light. So we are saying that the device which helps me to produce a polarized light is called as a polarizer, and the device which helps me to analyze whether the coming light is a polarized or not is called as what? Analyzer. Then we are saying about this condition when the intensity becomes maximum and zeros, then we rotate the analyzer to 90 degree conditions. We are going to come to rotate the condition in the 90 degree. And when I rotate this, it receives maximum 0. If I keep it parallel, maximum. 90 degree, 0. Again, anti-parallel, maximum. Again, this condition, 0. So if I get maximum 0 ultimately, then we can say that the light is said to be what? A plain polarized light. Then stop that. So you get maximum. When I rotate to 90 degree, it becomes minimum. Again, maximum, then minimum. The maximum intensity has been maximum and minimum is coming means it calls as what? A partially polarized light. Then, whatever we are thinking, if we are rotating the light is said to be the uniform intensity means, then the light is coming is said to be what? Unpolarized light. So these are the three conditions to say that whether the this is polarized or not. Right? Is that clear to you? Right. So we call this as polarizer. The device is helping to polarize the light is called as polarizer, and it is helping to check whether the coming light is polarized or not is called as what? Analyzer. Most probably, a single device can use for both polarized purpose as well as analyzed purpose. If I take a two-man crystal will act as a polarizer as well as an analyzer. So it is a very interesting topic. You can easily able to learn it, and it is a very easy topic, right? So next we will go for the thing called what? Malus law, and after studying that Malus law, we go for the concept of what? Polarization by reflection. Is it clear? Right. So we have studied about the polarizer and analyzer, and we have said that. So at what condition we can easily able to find a polarized light and analyzer. So depending upon the light intensity which falls on the analyzer, so the technique will be changed as it is whether the light is a plain polarized light or a partially polarized light or unpolarized light. So we can say that the intensity of a light will be half of its value when it passes through the polarizer. restricted by the polarizer. So the man as a scientist has been calculated them, and he has found a relationship that how the intensity of analyzer when it is when the light is passed through a polarizer, and he has been stated a law. We call that law as a Malus law. So what is saying that when a beam of a plane polarized light of intensity I naught is a real intensity, maximum intensity, is instead of an analyzer, the light transmitted of intensity I from analyzer, it will be varies as how it is going to vary. It varies as a square of a cosine of an angle theta between the transmission axis of a polarizer and analyzer. We already studied what we studied. If the analyzer has been rotated to 90 degrees, if it is 0, if it is exact between 0 and maximum 0, when it is parallel to the vibration, it is maximum, and when it is say that when it is perpendicular, it is said to be 0. So ultimately we get zeros and maximum. Then we call that type of light as what? A polarized light. So in order to find that relationship only, the Malus has been calculated a formula, and he has stated a law. We call that law as what? Malus law. From that it clearly proves that the intensity of an analyzer is directly proportional to square of a cosine of an angle between the transmission axis between what? The polarizer and the analyzer. So in between it represents the formula as I equal to I naught cos square theta. So we are going to prove that, right? Let I naught be the maximum intensity of the original light, and A is the amplitude of the light. And since the amplitude of the light has been resolved into what? Two components, A cos theta and A sin theta. So A cos theta is a parallel vibrations, and A sin theta is a perpendicular vibrations. And therefore we can say that the intensity of light only depends upon the parallel vibration of a particle. So we can say that intensity is directly proportional to square of an amplitude. We studied it. Intensity, interference pattern, we studied that intensity is what? Directly proportional to square of an amplitude. Therefore I is proportional to A cos theta the whole square. So if a proportional constant is removed, it has been into a constant term. We call that as a K, because square becomes A square cos square theta. And since K A square is what? I naught. Therefore the equation of Malus arrived. So I equal to I naught cos square theta. But K A square is nothing but is the maximum intensity of light that has been transmitted from the analyzer. So we call this condition as what? A Malus law. He is the first person to relate the relationship between a polarizer and an analyzer, the intensity between a polarizer and an analyzer. So if I take a special cases, we can prove this. From this equation itself, we can prove that the maximum intensity varies from zeros and maximum. Suppose the angle is said to be 0 degree, that is parallel, both are parallel to each other. The plane of vibrations and axis both are parallel. The theta is said to be what? 0 degree. You know that cos 0 is said to be 1. Therefore, the intensity of the transmitted light will be equal to the what? The intensity of a analyzer. I naught is what? I naught is the original light, that is a transmitted light. That will be equal to I means what? That is equal to the intensity of light which is reaching an analyzer. Therefore, the transmitted light will be equal to the intensity of light of a analyzer. Then we will take the next condition. What is the next condition? It is a 90 degree. So if it is a 90 degree means what? Perpendicular, two plates are perpendicular to each other. Then we can say that cos 90 is said to be 0. Therefore intensity will be 0. That's why when analyzer has been rotated to 0 and 90 degree, we can easily able to get a maximum and 0 condition. So this condition has been easily proved through what? A Malus law. It is a very important 2 marks or a 3 marks which can be asked. So you have to write the statement, and you have to write the equations, and you have to state that the intensity of an analyzer is directly proportional to square of a cosine of an angle between the transmission between what? The polarizer and the analyzer. Is that clear? Right? Now we move on another very important concept which is called as what? The uses of polaroids. These are very important standard questions which has been frequently asked in your 5 marks or 2 marks or 3 marks. Which can be a very important part in it. We can call that as what? The uses of polarizer. We already studied that. So due to selective absorption method, we studied that it allows only one parallel vibration and it will restrict all the vibrations. That is why the polaroid glasses has been used for bubbles. So it's a mirror, right? Dry mirror, and it has been used for a camera in order to avoid the glare. So glare of light, in order to avoid the glare of light, it has been used. Right? That is the first condition. The next one is helping to produce a three-dimensional structure. We call the three-dimensional picture as what? Polarized both amplitude and the phase will be recorded. That's why we can easily able to see the three-dimensional structure. In ordinary photo or camera, we can say that only the amplitude of the light has been recorded. If you see this video, the light is all on here, the board is only recorded, right? It is not a three-dimensional structure. So in order to have three-dimensional images, both the light amplitude as well as the angle in which it has been reflected, the phase angle, both has to be recorded. Then we can easily able to produce a three-dimensional structure. So these forward glasses has been easily helping to produce what? A three-dimensional structure. Then next is, it helps me to improve the color contrast of a old oil painting. We know that many okay paintings will be there. So when I coat the forward glasses, forward oils or some other thing on that painting, when the light falls on that, it gets multiple reflected over the paint, so the image will be clearly viewed or it will be improved the contrast, so we can easily able to see the pictures clearly. So that type of forward oils has been used in that. Oil painting has been used in that. And the next is, it helps us an optical stress analyzer. So it helps me to remove us what? An optical stress analyzer. And also it has been used in the window glasses. We studied that, right? In our training windows, we use of forward glasses in order to avoid the sunlight to enter more into it. So that type of thing is called as what? Window glasses. And if some forward laser beams have been used to read and write in the CDs, compact disc, right? So there are forward laser beams or that it can help me to easily read and write in the CD disk. And there is a forward light has been produced in the liquid crystal displays. So in liquid crystals, forward light beams can be easily able to emerge from that in order to display what? The liquid crystal displays which we are using in the TVs. The TV using is what? Liquid crystal displays. So these are some of the uses of forwards which is frequently used for everything based on the principle of what? The polarization. So what we have studied till now? So we studied about what is meant by polarization, and we studied about the difference between a polarized light and an unpolarized light. Then we have studied about the plane of vibration and plane of polarization and different techniques to produce a polarized light. Then we studied a technique called the selective absorption technique, and then we studied the law between what? Polarizer and analyzer. So then we have studied about what? The uses of polaroid. Right? I hope you have understood about this. It's a very easy. Though I have prepared very fast, you can easily able to understand it because it's a very simple concept. And the next topic we are going to move a very important concept. It's called as what? The polarization by reflection. Right? We call this another law of Brewster's law. This is going to give us another law, Brewster's law, and the piles of plates, which is based on the conditions of what? The polarization by reflection. Then we move forward. The selective, we have studied about selective absorptions, then we studied about reflection, then we move for double reflection, and next first scattering of light. Yes, we'll see. So now we are going to discuss about a very important 2 3-mark questions or a part of a 5-mark questions. One is called as polarization by reflection, and another one is called as piles of plates. Right? So it's a very standard repeated questions which has been asked in the type of polarization. So till now we have studied about what is meant by polarization. What is meant by polarization? We know that the restricted vibrations, if any light has been taken place, there is a vibration in all the directions. So if all the directions have been restricted and it allows only one parallel or perpendicular vibration, we can call that type of phenomena as what? Polarization. So we are going to produce this polarization with the help of a reflection, and we say that we will take an axis x and y. We take what? X, y is a reflecting plane, and we will make any unpolarized light. So this symbol represents what? An unpolarized light. In that we are going to take a uniform direction that is both perpendicular and parallel. So parallel will be represented by double arrow and the perpendicular will be represented by the line. So we are going to take one set of directions unpolarized light when it is allowed to fall on a glass plate at its polarizing angle. So each material will have a certain angle of polarization, and we are going to make that angle at which. So how to find that polarizing angle? Which we can say is that an angle at which the reflected and refracted light are perpendicular to each other, that is right angles to each other, then that angle is said to be what? A polarizing angle. Right? Can everybody get it? So So how to find a polarizing angle? This is very easy. So when I make a ray to fall on the reflected surface and we have to see partially reflected and partially refracted. When both the reflected and the refracted ray are 90 degrees to each other, then the angle at which the incident light falls on the plate is said to be what? Polarizing angle. We represent as what? IP. We know that as per the law of reflection, the angle of incidence must be equal to what? The angle of reflection. So here IP means here also IP. Right? So then what is happening? The reflected and refracted rays are both at 90 degree, and we call this angle to the normal and the refracted angle said to be what? It is the angle of refraction. When we observe the diagram itself, it is clearly seen that only dotted vibration, that is only a perpendicular vibration has been taken by the reflected ray, and here it has been both perpendicular and parallel, which has been resolved. So we call that the reflected beam is a fully polarized light, and the refracted beams are said to be what? A partially polarized light. Right? So we call this condition as what? A polarization which has been produced with the help of what? Refraction. So what we are saying, when unpolarized light has been forced on the reflecting surface at the polarizing angle, we will get a partial reflected ray and refracted ray in which the reflected beam is fully polarized and the refracted beam is what? Partially polarized. We call this technique as what? The polarization by refraction. So we can find it. See that this IP 90 degree and R, the entire angle of this has been forming in a straight angle. So therefore we can write IP plus 90 plus RP is equal to 90 degree. So from this we want to find the value of RP, that is refracted polarizing angle. 90, 180 minus 90 is 90 minus IP. We know the condition of law of refraction. It gives you Snell's law. Snell's law gives you what? The refractive index will be equal to sin I by sin R. So here we found the value of R to be what? 90 minus IP. If I substitute that, it becomes to sin 90 minus IP. Sin 90 minus IP is what? Cos IP. Therefore, sin 90 by cos IP is said to be what? Tan IP. Therefore, we prove this law. We call this law as Brewster's law. What is Brewster's law saying? The tangent of a polarizing angle will be equal to refractive index of a material. We call that law as a Brewster's law. What does tan stands for? The tangent. What does IP stands for? Polarizing angle. What N stands for? Refractive index. Therefore, the tangent of a polarizing angle is equal to the refractive index of a medium, which is a very famous law called Brewster's law. Can everybody get it? Right? So this technique is called as what? Polarization by refraction. So some questions paper they will give you directly explain about Brewster's law. Some question paper instead of giving the word Brewster's law, they will talk about polarization by refraction. So polarization by refraction means automatically you have to come for what? The Brewster's law. So what is Brewster's law says? The tangent of polarizing angle will be equal to or numerically equal to what? The refractive index of a medium, which is called as what? Famous Brewster's law. Right? So you can clearly see that the reflected and refracted are what? 90 degree. When the reflected beam is fully polarized and then both the beams are 90 degree, the angle at which the incident light falls on the reflected surface is called as what? It is called as polarizing angle. It is called as what? Polarizing angle. Right? Based on the same technique, we are going to study about another apparatus called as piezo plate. So piezo plate is the one which is going to act as both as a polarizer as well as an analyzer. So what we are going to do? We are going to incline more glass plates inside a tube, and at an incline angle of 33.7 degrees Celsius, and the polarizing angle or incident angle or polarizing angle of a glass is said to be what? 56.3 degrees Celsius. So at this angle, what will happen? The reflected beam is fully polarized and it will involve in what? Polarization. We call that as what? That is called as what? Polarizing angle. So for glass, what is the angle of polarization? If they ask you one more, you have to say what? 56.3 degree, at which only the reflected and refracted beam are right angle to each other, and we can say that the reflected beam are fully polarized. So at this angle, so for glass, the polarizing angle has been given by the value 56.3 degrees Celsius. So what we are going to do? Again, we are going to make unpolarized light to fall on a glass plate. It will get partial reflected and partial reflected. All the reflected beam has been transmitted outward and it has been passing over. So whenever the light falls on each surface of the glass plate, it undergoes a reflection and the intensity of light goes on developing, and more number of glass plates will give rise to more number of intensity of light. call this type of technique as what? Piles of plate, which help me to produce a maximum polarized light in a more number of intensities. So in more number of glass plates, more the intensity will be there. So this piles of plate is going to act as both as a polarizer as well as an analyzer. They help me to find it. So one of the devices which help me to produce a high intensity polarized light. So that is what is polarizer. It is very easy. So each surface in the glass plate, the incident light falls on that, it undergoes partial reflection and refraction. All the reflected beam are said to be a plain polarized light, and all the intensity of the reflected beam has been collected, and it will use a maximum intensity of a light depends upon the number of plates which has been arranged. Is it clear? And we are saying that all the incident light will fall on what is the angle of what? The polarizing angle. We call that as what? 56.3 degrees Celsius. And all the glass plates has been inclined to an angle of what? 33.7 degrees Celsius. So these two very important processes, and Brewster's law, or you can say the next name called what? Polarization by reflection. The next is called as what? Piles of plate. So this is the technique which helps me to prove that the light, the reflection of a light is a fully polarized. So reflected beam is what? A fully polarized light. We call this technique as polarization by reflection. Right? Then we have to study about two more top techniques. What are they? Double refraction, and next one is called as what? Scattering of light. So double refraction stands for what? The ray has to be divided into two. We are going to see that in our next video. So in our last video, we have been studying about the technique called polarization. So phenomenon of polarization means what? We say that the vibrations has been produced in all the directions will restricted, and it allows only one particular direction, either a parallel compound or a perpendicular compound. Then we can call that type of phenomena as a polarization. So it is a one-day phenomenon that helps me to tell the light is a transverse in nature. So we are studying about the various phenomena and the techniques which help me to produce a polarized light. And the technique what we are going to study now is called as polarization done through double refraction. So what is meant by double refraction? We know about what is meant by refraction. Moving of a light ray from one medium to another medium, it will bend towards or away from the normal. Depends upon whether it is moving from a narrow medium to denser medium or a denser medium to narrow medium. Right? So what is meant by double refraction? We can say is that the incident beam will be split into two rays. Right? And the two rays will travel to the different velocities. One ray is called as ordinary ray, and another ray is called as extraordinary ray. So a scientist called as Ernest Bartholus is the one. He viewed a Euclid using a calcite crystal, and he saw that there are two images have been formed on it, and from that only the double refraction concept has been started. So now we'll define double refraction. What is meant by double refraction? So in a ray of unpolarized light is incident on a calcite crystal, there are two refracted rays are produced. We call this phenomena as double refraction. So there will be two images will be produced. We call that as what? Double refraction. So the double refraction is also called by a name called birefringence. Right? So it is also have a name called what? Birefringence. Therefore, there are two images will be formed. One image is called as ordinary image, another image is called as extraordinary image. So if I place the ink dot and I view the ink dot through a calcite crystals, I observe two images. One is called as ordinary, another one is called as what? Extraordinary. If I rotate the crystal, the one image remains to be stationary and the other image will be rotating about the stationary image. The one which remains to be stationary image, we call that image as an ordinary image, and it obeys all the law of refraction. The image which is moving around the stationary image, we can call that as what? Extraordinary image, which doesn't obey the law of refraction. So in a board examination, they will ask what is the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. The first point is here it produces a stationary image, here the image is not stationary, it is moving. So why it is moving? Because both the rays are traveling with a different velocity. Is it right? So it obeys the law of refraction. It does not extraordinary ray does not obey the law of refraction, and extraordinary you may say that it produces a spherical wavefront, and external image it produces a elliptical wavefront because this revolves around the form of elliptical, therefore it becomes what? Elliptical wavefront. So these are some of the differences. I will repeat it again. Listen. So ordinary ray, extraordinary ray. So ordinary ray will form a stationary image and it obeys the law of refraction, and the direction of velocity will remain the same in single direction, and velocities will remain the same. The next is what? We can say that it produces a spherical wavefront. These are the differences. It obeys the law of refraction, it produces stationary image, it travels with the same velocity, and we can say that it produces the spherical wavefront. If I talk about external rays, we can say that the external ray not produces the stationary wave, it does not obey the law of refraction, it can produce by a plane polarized light, and we can say that it travels with different velocities in different directions, and it can produce what? Elliptical wavefront. Right? Is it clear? We call that as what? Double refraction. That means a single incident light when it falls on the calcium crystal, it will be split into two rays. We can call that as what? A double refraction. Right? Now we are going to name a topic called optic axis. This is one of the imaginary axes on the crystal at which both the rays will travel with the same velocity, both ordinary ray and extraordinary ray travels with the same velocity. Therefore, I can say that no double refractions takes place on the optic axis. So on the optic axis, there will be what? No double refractions will take place. We can call that as what? Optic axis. So it is a very important to know question. They'll ask what is will be optic axis, what will happen. So in optic axis, there will be no double refraction take place. That means what? Both ordinary and extraordinary ray travels with the same velocity at that axis. So therefore we call that axis as what? Optic axis. The next is said to be based on the optic axis. We divide the crystals into two types. One is called as uniaxial crystal and another one is called as biaxial crystal. So uniaxial, you know that it means one. So if suppose a crystal has only one axis, that is one optic axis, we can call that type of crystal as what? Uniaxial crystal. Suppose it has two optic axes, we can call that as what? Biaxial crystal. They will ask you one mark. They will give the examples of four things or four options. They will give and they will say which is a uniaxial crystal. Or sometimes they will ask which is not a uniaxial crystal. You have to remember, right? So uniaxial crystals examples of calcite, quartz, tourmaline, ice are the example for uniaxial crystal. And biaxial crystal example is mica, topaz, selenite, and argonite. These are the examples for what? Biaxial crystals. So you have to remember the example. So here it is common, right? Calcite, you know it, quartz, you know it, tourmaline also you know it, ice. So these all form what? Have only one optic axis. Means these are the example for what? Uniaxial crystal. For a biaxial crystal, mica, topaz, selenite, argonite are different names. Only mica is exceptional, right? So these are some special names for that. We can call that as what? Biaxial crystal. So this is a technique by which what? A double refraction technique. We can easily able to produce a polarized light because the external light is what? A plain polarized light. Right? Now we are moving for the one instrument or a device that will works on the basis of double refraction, which is called as nickel prism. So William Nickel is the first person to construct this, and because it is a very very costly one because it is made up of a calcite crystal without any flaws or without any damages you have to take it. Therefore, this nickel prism is a very very costly prism which has to be obeying the law of what? Double refraction. So this is a nickel prism, so it has to cut along this axis. How it has to cut along the axis? Means the axis, one axis should be 72 degrees Celsius and another axis should be 108 degrees Celsius. If you add these two, it becomes to be 180. And it has to cut along the diagonal, and the two things has to be pasted with the help of a cement called Canada balsam. Right? These are the two calcium crystals, and it has to cut along the axis, and the axis has been merged or they have been stick together with the help of one another transparent cement. We call that transparent cement as what? Canada balsam. Right? When any incident light falls on that, it has been split into two rays. One is called as ordinary, another is called extraordinary. The extraordinary one is allowed to pass through the Canada balsam and it will be transmitted out of it. It is a plain polarized light. And ordinary has been totally internally reflected inside the prism. Therefore, only a single beam of light has been traveling. Hence, we can call this nickel prism as a polarizer or a ionizer. Right? So, Canada balsam is not a single polarizer. the two uses because nickel prism will act as both as a polarizer as well as an analyzer. Is that clear? So we have taken a calcium crystals, right? So calcium crystals whose length will be 3 times of its breadth, and the diagram has been cut along the thing from one angle is 72 degree, another angle is 108 degree, and it has been cut along the diagonal, and the two pieces has been again freezed by means of a transparent film called what? Canada bispecimen. When instant light falls on that, double refraction takes place. So it has been split into two rays. One is called as ordinary, another one is called as extraordinary. The ordinary ray is not able to pass through Canada bispecimen, so it is totally internally reflected inside the nickel prism, and the extraordinary ray which travels through Canada bispecimen and reflected and emerges out of the nickel prisms as what? A plain polarized light. Right? It's a very interesting and very important question. So they will frequently ask questions for nickel prisms. It's a 3-mark based questions, right? Now we are going to see some of the drawbacks of using nickel prism. Already we have seen what is the thing. So we say that the cost is very high. Why the cost is very high? Because of the scarcity of the calcium crystal as well as the flashes crystal in it. So without having any damages in the crystal, we have to get that one. So it is a very rare one. That's why the nickel prism must be very costly. And if I say that the external ray passing obliquely through it and the emergent rays always has been displaced a little to one side, so there will be some shift in the angle, a shift in the position of the emergent ray will be there. That is another drawback for that. And we can say that the effective field of view is quite limited. Only at particular time we should easily able to see it. So apart from that, so we can not able to get it easily. So it is very quite the effective field of view. We cannot able to properly view it, because it is very minutely we have to adjust in order to see the images. Then we can say the light emitted out, it is not a uniformly plane polarized. So hence it is another drawback for it. So we are already saying that it is emitted as a plane polarized, but it is not a uniformly plane polarized light. It is another drawback of using a nickel prism. Is it clear to you? So today we have learned about what? The new technique of producing a polarized light, which is called as what? Double refraction. So double refraction is said by who? So Barthol Minsky is the first person to analyze that when any ray emerges into the calcium crystal, it has been broken into two rays, or it has been split into two rays. One is called ordinary, another one is called extraordinary. Ordinary ray obeys the law of refraction, and extraordinary ray does not obey the law of refraction. Here the velocity will remain the same. Here the velocity will different, and it will produce a spherical wavefront. This one will produce what? An elliptical wavefront. And we studied about optic axis. What is optic axis? The axis at which these two rays travel at the same velocity. We can call that axis as what? Optic axis. So we can say that there is no double refraction takes place at optic axis. And based on optic axis, the crystal has been divided into what? Uniaxial and biaxial. So uniaxial means it has only one optic axis. Biaxial means it has two optic axes. Then we study about this nickel prism, right? It's a nickel prism. William Nickel is the first person. Nickel prism works on the principle of what? Double refraction. Extraordinary only emerges out of it. Ordinary ray will be totally internally reflected inside the prism. Therefore, the nickel prism is acting as a polarizer as well as an analyzer. And we have seen some of the drawbacks of using what? Nickel prism. So next we have to study about the last technique, which is called as what? Scattering in white atmosphere. Or scattering polarization used by the scattering. But we will study in the next video. So in the last videos we have been studying about polarization techniques, and we have studied about the polarization, how it has been done through reflection, and by means of we have studied about what? Selective absorption, and from that we have studied about various conditions like Bruce's laws, Malus laws, and nickel prism, piles of polaroid, and so on. So we have following 4 techniques in which the polarizations can be obtained. So one we have already studied, which is called as selective absorption, and the two is called all other directions will have one unpolarized light. I hope so. You have known about what is meant by unpolarized light and polarized light. Polarized light means yes, it has a vibration only in one direction. Then we can call that as what? Polarized light. And they proved that when I view the sunlight which is interacting with the molecule in a perpendicular manner, then we can easily able to see only one dimension or one dimension based vibration. We can call that type of light as what? Polarized light. Other directions are what? We can get partially polarized light or unpolarized light depending upon the position of the viewer. The polarized light can be obtained. So that is the thing I have been explained here. It says that the sunlight gets scattered by the atmospheric molecule and the electrons which is present in these molecules have been influenced by vibration components of the electric field present in that sunlight. So we know that the sunlight is unpolarized light. It has its vibration in all the directions. But it says that the vibrating electron radiate one energy only in the direction perpendicular to the vibration. This is a very important point. You have to know. The vibrating electron radiate energy only in the direction perpendicular to the direction of vibration or direction of a thing. We can call that type of light to be what? A plain polarized light. If you view into this diagram, you are able to understand that, right? So this is a sunlight, which is unpolarized light. It has been interacting with the molecule. So we are observing the molecule scattered in light in a three different positions. One is a straight position, 180 degree. Here I am going to view it in a unpolarized manner. When I see this, it is what? Partially polarized. When the thinnest right angle, that is 90 degree, we can say that to be what? A polarized light. The vibration, which is perpendicular to the vibration of radiation. The viewing position is what? A perpendicular to the unpolarized sunlight. Therefore, this position we can easily able to view only a single direction of vibration. We can call that type of light as what? A polarized light. So this is another technique we can easily able to obtain a polarized light, which is a natural observing technique. So that's why we are saying that polarization is very common in nature, and here it can be obtained through various gases like polarized gases, and many things has been came into account in a daily life. Right? So that's about the polarization. Now we have completed the wave optics. So wave optics, we have started with the five phenomena of light, and we said that these five phenomena of light can also obey the wave theory, and we have proved that how the Huygens principle, using of Huygens principle, how the reflection and refraction condition has been proved. And next we have talked about interference pattern. The next we have talked about diffraction, and next is last is about what? Polarization. So we have discussed all about the five phenomena of light in terms of wave theory, and we have proved that all the five theories of light is also obeyed with wave. Right? So that's the thing. Now we are moving into the last part of the lesson, which is called as optical instrument. So we are going to study about the telescope and spectrometer and so, right? So microscope, telescope, how it can be viewed over, what is the condition to be given. Now we are going to the next part called optical instrument in our next video. Thank you.